Hello teachers and good afternoon. No? Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat and welcome to our Thursday stream. And this is our usual Thursday schedule. No? At maraming salamat for always being with us in our live streams, no? And joining us in this yet another installment of our January series. No? So pang-apat na po tayo ngayon. And our session for today will be on effective presentation for teachers. No, let me first greet our teachers in the chat. No, at ang aga ng ating mga teachers. No, we have as early as I think 7:32 a.m. ang aga mag-comment no ni Sir Villarreal. Okay, another better opportunities to us today. No, maraming salamat for always trusting our sessions, no, and the topics that we are preparing and designing for you to be able to continuously grow professionally despite the many challenges ngayon, lalo na ngayon sa pagputok ng Omicron variant sa Pilipinas, no. Medyo na-challenge naman tayo for 2022, no. Pero again, I believe teachers know that we are much wiser, much stronger, no, compared to ourselves when the pandemic first hit us in 2020. No? So mas malakas tayo ngayon. So wag tayo masyadong magpa-stress no sa Omicron variant na to. Anyway, despite of that teachers, I still hope that all of you are safe and doing well no in the comforts of your homes. Sana po maayos ang kalagayan natin, safe tayo. And kung meron po tayong mga dinadamdam ngayon, meron po tayong may mga sakit ngayon, I hope that you are all getting better. Okay, and we'll be praying for your for your health and fast recovery yan. Maraming salamat. Before we go to our session for today, I'd like to take this opportunity to greet our teachers in the chat. And let me first begin with our very avid at saka very usual attendees Teacher Joseph Odelon Hermitanio, okay? Of course, Teacher Jeffrey Beltran is also here by as early as 4:14 p.m. an hour ago, okay? And of course, good afternoon to Teacher Rose Malen Rosel. Good afternoon, Teacher Rose Malen. Hindi ka na ngayon team replay. Yay! Live session na tayo ngayon. No? Live viewer ka na ngayon, Teacher Rose Malen. I know you're so busy, pero maraming salamat for joining our live session for today, Teacher Rose Malen. Teacher Marimar Tamesa. Good afternoon, Teacher Maria Teresa Cruz. Teacher Maria Teresa Ganaden. Welcome back po, Teacher Maria Teresa Ganaden. I think medyo nagkonting hindi ko lang sure Teacher Teresa parang hindi ko kasi masyado nakita sa chat recently or in the previous sessions. Baka lang na-miss ko. Pero if ever na naging busy ka, Teacher Teresa, welcome back to our session for today. Teacher Rosel Gega, Teacher Edith Pogoy, Teacher Carol Sombria, Teacher Edna Despi, Teacher Ellie Austria, Teacher Vina Malipot, Teacher Karen Mamaril, Teacher Sheila Ocampo, Teacher Mary Grace Castillo, Teacher Lamberto Pilatan, Teacher Federicia Kaluwagan, Teacher Rita Arancena, Teacher Mia May Kibuyen, Teacher Eric Dayaw Mercader, Teacher Sioni Bananya, Teacher Nina Roque Villanueva, Teacher Arlene Alberto. Good afternoon, Teacher Arlene. Teachers, hindi ko po sila mga baka lang sabihin natin may favoritism tayo kasi nagsa-stop ako in some names. Kaya lang teachers, ito kasi mga ibang viewers natin sobrang always here kasi sila. Talagang naging friends ko na po sila at naging ka-chat na or ka-message sa Messenger. So good afternoon, Teacher Arlene. Teacher A Hopeful Talks, I think that's also a channel. You might also want to subscribe to Teacher A Hopeful Talks. So baka marami tayong makuha din dyan. Teacher Santiano Nidlin, Teacher Lilian Gumban, Teacher Shan, Teacher Rosario Trevillas, Teacher Eileen Pinaranda, Teacher Harriet Ornales, Teacher Emilia Menes, Teacher Milia Dalingay, Teacher RM Ana Lizelle, Teacher Maria Corazon, Cecilia Landicho, Teacher Edna Ricafort, and I'll stop now at Teacher Jose B. Taroy Jr. And for the rest teachers, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat and welcome to our stream for today. Okay? Ang dami pang greetings na medyo napupuno na yung ang bilis kasi umakyat teachers 'no. So dun sa mga hindi ko po na nagbate 'no, please, um, uh, pardon me 'no, and good afternoon po sa inyong lahat. Teacher Elmar Moralde, welcome back po, and uh, to our session 'no. Teacher Elmar, hindi ko lang sure, I think ikaw yung winner. I think one of the winners sa Ed Puzzle session natin. Please do contact me no kasi hindi ko pa nasi-send yata yung swag bag mo no, until today. Okay? So please do remind me. Message me, Teacher Elmar. Kung ikaw yun, no? I think kasi ikaw yun. Okay? Baka lang kasi nakalimutan ko na. Okay? Dumaan kasing December, naging busy rin po tayo, no? But please, yeah, Teacher Elmar, remind me. Please send me your details again. I'll send that tomorrow morning and the next day makukuha mo na po kagad yan. Okay? Matagal ko ng utang yan kay Teacher Elmar. No? Teachers, no? Ano po yan? Utang ko yan kay Teacher Elmar. Yung swag bag from Ed Puzzle. Okay? Dadagdagan ko pa yan, Teacher Elmar, ng something else. Okay? Para pambayad dun sa utang ko na na-delay siya. Okay? Pero don't forget, don't worry, hindi ko po siya nakalimutan. Okay? Teacher Elmar. Okay? Apologies kung naiwan po, natagalan, at hindi ko po kagad napadala. Yan. Okay? So, message me, Teacher Elmar, and I'll get to that no, as soon as possible. Okay? So, teachers, bago po tayo mag-start ang ating session, may I also first invite everyone to please share our link for today to your social media social media para lang po mas marami tayong ma-invite na other teachers and educators, and we can actually widen our understanding about effective presentation, okay, for teachers. And as always, teachers, lagi namin sinasabi, please do engage in the chat, no? Mag-share po tayo ng insights natin, ng questions natin, so that everyone also learns from each other. Okay? Kasi po ito ay, as always, is a community learning. Okay? So although our excellent speaker for today will be leading the discussion for today, I can't emphasize enough no yung word na excellent kasi talagang excellent kasi yung speaker natin for today. Anyway, but still, no, teachers do contribute in the chat, no, and we will so that we can learn from each other. Okay, and of course, as I always mention, teachers, para lang po sa mga baguhan, mga bago pong nanonood ng ating live stream, this is also a certified event. Okay, ibig sabihin, we have teachers, no, you will receive a certificate after you have received the after you have accomplished the evaluation link. Okay? So teachers, wag na nating patagalin, no? So let's now get into our session. Okay? So for our session for today, we will be talking about effective presentation for teachers. Ano nga ba ang qualities and factors on making a presentation effective? Okay? I know we have been doing this for a long time. We know how to make a presentation, either Google Slides, Microsoft PowerPoint presentation. Now you have Canva. Of course, kakatapos din natin ng session on ClassPoint. We also have that. Okay? Pero what are other elements that makes a presentation effective? Okay? And that's what we're going to talk about for today. Okay? As part, of course, still part of our January series. This is the 4th installment of our January series. So teachers, before we start, can I have some opinions in the chat? What makes a presentation effective? Okay, so I'll be waiting in the chat para din makita ng ating ng ating speaker for today. What are your insights about what makes a presentation effective? So can you put that in the chat, like a word or two or a phrase of what makes a presentation effective? Okay, and we'll also wait para makita po later on. Definitely our speaker will be looking at that. Meron na po mga konting insights ito from Teacher Richard Safico, good content. Teacher Vernie Tuazon, content and design. Teacher Pau, I hope that you're doing well. Hindi lang po maka-join sa live streams, Teacher Pau, nagpapahinga pa siya ngayon. Okay? But Teacher Pau, we hope that you're doing well. Ayan, ang dami nang lumalabas na insights about what makes a presentation effective. Okay, so let's now, of course, start our session by welcoming our speaker for today. Okay, And I have, of course, the honor, okay, to read to you the background, no, of our speaker for today. Our speaker for today is Sir Jake Aragon. Okay, is an educator, professional trainer, and consultant with over 15 years of educational leadership and management experience. After teaching and serving as student activity coordinator in Xavier School for 10 years, he assumed the role of AVP for Student Affairs and VP and Principal for the Senior High School Department of I Academy. He has also established Team Solutions, a training firm that designs and implements training experiences focused on team building, leadership, creativity, and organizational communication. Currently, he is the academic manager for the Philippines of Acadesia, a Singapore-based mission-driven education technology company that aims to empower educators wherever or everywhere through a networking and learning platform called FreeJu, which serves as a global community of educators. Let us welcome to our stream for today our speaker, Sir Jake Aragon. Good afternoon, Sir Jake.
Hello, hi Sir Franco. Magandang hapon sa iyo at sa lahat ng mga teachers who are joining us this afternoon. Talagang saludo tayo sa lahat ng mga teachers, no, Sir Franco, for still soldiering on and continuing on with the good work of teaching despite the pandemic. Saludo rin tayo sa KTS, Sir Franco, for organizing these engaging, very informative, very helpful webinars for our teachers. Sir Franco, it took a pandemic, no, to bring us all together, and you're doing such a great job bringing the community of teachers around the country together to share knowledge and insights with each other.
Yes, maraming Sir Jake. And again, of course, Sir Jake, ngayon pala nagpapasalamat na kagad kami, no, on behalf of the community for giving us your time, no, and of course sharing your time with us because we know how busy you are, and sabi mo nga lahat tayo sobrang busy, lahat tayo madaming ginagawa, pero we still spend some time, okay, we settle down, okay, to actually listen to each other and to grow, no, together. So we're excited, Sir Jake, to what you're going to be talking about today on effective presentation for teachers. Pero siguro, Sir Jake, bago ko po ibigay yung floor sa inyo, no, is we'd like first to hear some overview. What are the things that our teachers will be expecting in our session for today?
Yes, first, Sir Franco, I'll give a context, no, of where we are as teachers now, what kinds of presentations we find ourselves delivering, okay? And then after that, I'll give some advanced techniques for our teachers. Alam naman natin, magagaling na, no, yung mga teachers natin in delivering their lessons and designing engaging presentations and implementing them in the classroom. But what are the finer points that our teachers can still explore and use in their respective classes that can help engage the students more and that can help make their presentations more effective? And then finally, I'll also show sample slides. And like you said earlier, Sir Franco, I'll ask our audience to give their thoughts and opinions also on some of some of the samples that I'll be showing this afternoon. So hopefully, and as Sir Franco said, I'll hear a lot from everyone in the audience. And as I show these examples, I'd also want to hear your thoughts and your insights on how we think, we can improve the way presentations are done. So in a nutshell, Sir Franco, yun ang gagawin natin this afternoon.
Exciting, nakaka-excite po, sir. Siyempre, medyo challenging talaga, Sir Jake, to, no? Kasi alam natin magagaling na yung mga teachers natin. So yun yung magiging natin. How else can we elevate those presentations? So Sir Jake, we will no longer take much of your time. We can now proceed to your session. Teachers, enjoy the session. Sir Jake, good luck on your session, and we'll be at the background.
Thank you. Okay, so please give me a few seconds to share my screen, dear teachers. Okay. Once again, thank you for being with us this afternoon through the efforts and leadership of the teachers of Kaagapay Teacher Support. Nandito na naman tayo to share with one another very useful, very practical tips that can help us become better teachers. And this afternoon, what we will talk about are more specific, more particular ways or strategies by which we can enhance or further sharpen the kinds of presentations and the designs of the lessons that we'll do in class. Thank you so much for the teachers who are greeting me and the other teachers in the room. We see a lot of positive and good vibes in this webinar, and that's really what we need, no, in this time of pandemic when there are just so many challenges that we're facing. What we really need is the help and support of one another. Ang talagang kailangan po natin, katulad ng ginagawa ni na Sir Franco at ng kanyang team, ay maging kaagapay sa isa't isa. So we'd like to be able to continue this culture of support and cooperation and encouragement and inspiration for each teacher in this country and even around the world. Okay, so my presentation is class. May I have your attention, please? How do we deliver effective presentations for teachers? So many times we find ourselves calling the attention of our students or our learners. But more than asking them really what them to give us their full attention during class, really it's how we prepare for our classes. It's how we design our presentations that ultimately makes our students give their full attention to us. Okay? Now, every school day, I know that teachers deliver presentations. I remember my very first class assignment in the year 2004. I was assigned to teach a class of 35 students, fourth year high school students in an exclusive all-boys school. Alam niyo mga teachers, sa dami-dami ng taong kong pagtuturo, marami ng events at experiences na nangyari being a teacher and a school administrator. But the first day in the classroom was something, that's still very fresh, still very vivid in my mind. And I'll never forget what it was that took place before I actually entered the first classroom that was assigned to me in the year 2004. I'm sure many of you also remember that. And later, maybe as I share my story, you'll also recall the time when you were actually going to your first class as well. I remember that before I entered the class at that time, pumasok muna ako sa CR, no, sa restroom, just before the classroom. I went into one of the cubicles, looked up, closed my eyes, and told myself, this is it, my first teaching assignment. But as I prayed, to the Lord to bless me with the courage and the energy to be able to teach, I was also very nervous because it was that big responsibility of molding and teaching and forming and mentoring 35 students that really was very overwhelming, that was nerve-wracking at the time. So I asked, I said a short prayer and told myself that I can do this. I know I can teach what I know best. But at the same time, Lord, please help me to be able to connect meaningfully to the students. Fortunately, when I entered the classroom, I found that the class was a bunch of well-behaved and very diligent students. So it wasn't a very, painful or difficult experience for me. And we went on through the year doing well. But looking back at that experience, it has come to my mind that, for the last 17, 18 years of being in classrooms, that has how my routine has been. Before I enter any class, before I take the stage, before I deliver a training program, I take quiet time for myself. I look up, close my eyes, and tell myself that I have to be giving inspired teaching. Kailangan makakonect ako sa mga bata. Kailangan mapakita natin, no, that this hour or hour and a half with my class will be absolutely worth it. And from then on, that has always been the practice that I've done for so many years, and it has come to mind quite well. No, that I always remember this big idea that I would want to share with all of you today. That when every time we deliver or we give a presentation, we are always creating or achieving connection. Every time we give or deliver a presentation, remember that you are also creating or achieving connection. Throughout the day, that will be the big idea. Throughout the session, that will be the big idea that will share and work on and talk about as we discuss the specific tips on how we can sharpen the way we present, the way we deliver our classes, the lessons and plans. Okay, so keep that in mind, teachers. Presentation equals connection. Pero tatanong nyo, Sir Jake, sa hirap ng pinagdadaanan ng mga bata ngayon, ng mga teachers, ng mga magulang, how can we even, think about enhancing the way we do things when, of course, what we want to be able to do is to survive. Nagkakasakit ang maraming tao, ang daming pinagdadaanan, ang daming pagsubok, no, na kinakaharap ng mga tao all over the country and the world. So why do we uh, take time looking at how we can enhance presentations, But you see, dear teachers, what we are all going through today also brings us back to our why as teachers. The threat of COVID-19 has presented unique challenges to schools, educators, students, and parents all over the world. And according to UNESCO, as early as the year 2021, 1.38 billion learners all over the world, have been displaced or have been gravely impacted by school closures worldwide. So very disruptive ang COVID, not only on schools or on teachers or on institutions, but even on the level of the individual. We have all been in one way or another, gravely and seriously affected or impacted by COVID-19. And I remember that in 2020, when we all had to transition to online teaching and learning sometime early March, no? I was telling myself, I was the principal of a senior high school at that time. I was telling myself, how do I invite teachers to be on board to carry on with the work of education, with the work of formation for our students? Because people really just wanted to be able to get by and survive. But you see, when I spoke with the teachers, there were many, many teachers in the faculty that I had at the time who didn't give up, who just kept on going, who kept giving suggestions and ideas on how we can go about delivering online learning and teaching, and that they just didn't want to give up. Ayaw sumuko ng mga teachers, Many students asked for an academic freeze. Many of them said, we're not learning. Many of them said, this is not the most ideal situation for students or learners to get on with their schooling or to continue on with their schooling. But when you talk to the teachers, iba, di ba? Iba yung pananaw, iba yung paninindigan to continue on with teaching. And that is so inspiring. That is something that really keeps you going. And I realized because of the pandemic, more and more at the time, we found out that we are again reminded of our why as educators. You teachers, because of this pandemic, are reminded of your why as educators. Many times, you're occupied with the what, ano yung tuturo, ano yung lesson, ano yung content, ano yung coverage, and yung how will we teach this? How will we use all these new apps and learning platforms, right? And software and programs that we can use, right? But at the end of the day, we go back to answering Why are we teachers? Why are we educators? And the pandemic, more and more, has helped us answer that question. And as we answer that question, why we continue to teach, why we continue to be with students, why we continue to soldier on in spite of the many challenges and difficulties that we're encountering, right? We see that our role as educators, your role as teachers, has never been as important as it has, been before. Because now, maraming agam-agam ang mga bata at mga magulang. Maraming pag-aalala, maraming worries, maraming problema. And other than parents or the family members of our students, you are also the people whom our students look up to very sincerely, very dearly, very excitedly. And it's also your task to help them see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's also your responsibility, our duty as teachers, to remind them that no matter how hard things are now, at the end of the day, right? We will be better. We will get through. We will succeed in all the things that we do. And that's what our students, that's what our learners, that's what our, mentees and wards need. An extra push of support and encouragement from the teachers. And that continues to remind us of our why as educators. Paalalahanan natin ang mga bata, no? Na kahit gaano kahirap, gaano katindi yung mga pinagdadaanan natin, kakayanin natin to. We will continue to teach you to become better citizens, to become better individuals. And no matter what kind of struggles you also have as teachers, you continue building on your skills and that you will continue delivering top-notch, high-quality teaching to them. And so, in the backdrop of the pandemic, you definitely are reminded of your why as educators, and you are all doing a fantastic job at it. Okay, now, nung nagsimula yung pandemic, we found ourselves trying to explore this new world of online teaching and for our students, online learning. We tried so many new things and so many new approaches and strategies. And many times you found yourselves similar to being on a lifeboat. No? Nakasakay yung mga bata sa lifeboat, kayo yung kapitan ng lifeboat. But what is a lifeboat? It's a boat that can only accommodate very few passengers. It's unstable. You don't know how it will handle, the waves that you will encounter or the problems or challenges that will come your way. And the lifeboat can only take you so far. But it will get you to where you want to go. And that's how, at the start of all of this, we found ourselves in, right? Similar to being the captain of a lifeboat. But as we went on the last 2 years, learning new skills, new techniques, learning from KTS and other things that we see online to help teachers become better at online learning and teaching, we found ourselves being captains of a ship, a big ship. And what is a ship? A ship is one where, of course, you can accommodate more students. They'll feel more secure and stable. They'll feel more guaranteed that they'll get to where they want to go in spite of the many big waves or many big obstacles that will come their way. And so in the last 2 years, you found yourselves, dear teachers, navigating at the start a lifeboat, but as you went on, slowly and surely, has become a ship for you. And you, dear teachers, continue to be the captains of the ship that you are steering or that you are leading. And your task really is more and more to strengthen the ship, whether it's your school or it's your class or it's your small group that you're leading and mentoring, that you're looking after, right? You are still the captain. And how do you become a good captain? How do you become a better captain all the time? By continuously enhancing and building and strengthening the skills and leadership that you have. So do keep that in mind, teachers, that you are the captain off the ship, and your students will be on your ship, no matter how strong the waves are, no matter how difficult, the oceans are. Okay? So let's go back to our big idea. Again, when we give presentations, dear teachers, remember, it's not just giving a PowerPoint or a keynote presentation. It's not just something that you show on screen or online to your students. More than what you're displaying online, you are also showing or achieving connection. Okay? Remember, effective po ang tinuturo natin. Okay? Useful at makabuluhan po ang mga lessons at na binabahagi natin sa ating mga mag-aaral. Okay? Only if you are able to make or achieve those connections more than the fancy or creative presentations or designs that you have on the screen. So let's keep in mind our big idea for this afternoon, that making or designing presentations equals achieving or creating connections. Okay. Now, before I go to some of the specific skills and techniques, I'll show a few images here, visual icebreakers that can help, stimulate our creativity. Please feel free to post into the chat box what you think the image is showing or depicting. So let's start with the first one. Okay, so here we see that there's a word. There's an image also of a telescope, and there seems to be an eye that you're also seeing there. But the image here is also depicting a common phrase or word that we always also say as educators or teachers. Yes, thank you, Marvin. The phrase that we're looking for here is forward looking or looking forward, no? Teachers have always been looking forward, to the webinars that, KTS and others organizers are giving to you. But also remember that your students are also looking forward or forward looking all the time to the classes and sessions that they have with you, na hindi masasayang ang oras, that after the period, they will really find it, very useful and meaningful for them. So thank you for responding and guessing, the image that's being shown on the screen. I'll show you the second image now. There is a man who seems to be working very diligently, very seriously. A few books are open with a certain word. What idiom or what phrase is this image depicting? Can we see some responses again? Please do type them into the chat box. Thank you, Miss Kalawagan. Right. What we're looking for here is learning the ropes or learn the ropes. As teachers, no, it doesn't end. The way we're teaching, the way we're learning, the way we're improving our skills, no? And by being present this afternoon, you're also showing that you're enrolling yourself to be able to learn new techniques and new skills. And in this case, to discover more about enhancing your presentation skills. So thank you so much, teacher. So thank you for learning the ropes or being willing to learn the ropes through this session. And finally, can I get your response to this to this image? What we see here is a bag with the words inside the bag. Okay. What do you think is the phrase being depicted by this image? Thank you, Abby. What we are looking for here is what we know to be the phrase or idiom as bag of tricks, no? Tayo mga teachers, ang dami nating strategies, ang dami nating gimmick, no? Ang dami nating activities, icebreakers, energizers, techniques, strategies, that no matter what the situation is, we always have a bag of tricks. Even if we meet a very rowdy class or a very uncooperative group of students, alam natin yan kung anong diskarte natin. Alam natin yan kung anong activity ang makakapag upo at makakapag pakinig sa mga bata, no? In this afternoon, right, in this session, we'll also share some tricks of the trade that can help you become better presenters, that can help you deliver presentations much better. And so we look forward to the things that we do in class and, of course, in this session. We want to learn the ropes as we develop new skills and techniques. And of course, we want to be able to further increase, the bag of tricks that we have or the techniques and strategies we have to further develop our presentations and create, excellent design of experiences and learning activities for our students. So thank you, teachers, for indulging me and answering these phrases or figuring out what the images are. See how I was able to do it even without asking you very directly what this idiom is or what we think we can do. No, we try to make it fun and a bit more creative, so that we can also think and invite other members of the class to be able to engage each other in figuring out the answers to the phrases. So that's our bag of tricks. So let's again go back to our big idea. Presentation equals connection. When you design or make or put together a presentation, again, at the end of it all, right? More than the techniques or more than the strategies, what is key, what is essential is for you to be able to achieve or establish connections with your students. So keep that in mind, okay? Keep that in mind because that, of course, is what's really or absolutely important as we talk about delivering effective presentations for teachers. So let's continue. Now, tracking the time. There's a tip from top notch speaker Sharon Bowman, and she says it very simply, dear teachers. Never talk longer than the average age of the group. Anong ibig sabihin yan? If you're teaching a group of 5-year-old students, talk for 5 minutes. If you're teaching a group of teenagers, age 15 years old or so, they will only give their full attention to you for 10 to 15 minutes. If you're talking to students, maybe in college or even older, or to your colleagues in the faculty who are 20 to 30 years old, ang sinasabi ng experts, dear teachers, the threshold is 20 to 30 years old. Beyond 30 years old, it doesn't mean that if the person is 60 or 70 years old, you will speak for 60 to 70 minutes. But what really is the ideal time to talk is also 20 to 30 minutes if your audience is beyond 30 years old. So this is a guide that you always have to mentally keep in mind. Minsan, very excited tayo sa pagbigay natin ng lecture. We even have goosebumps when we feel or when we think that we're giving such an excellent lecture, right? But really, when you try to read the room, you will find out that slowly but surely, right? Some of the students start getting disengaged, start getting detached, right? So you have to be able to track the time. Okay? And the rule of thumb is never talk longer than the average age of the group. But what does that mean? Ang ibig sabihin po ba niya na after 5 minutes for 5-year-olds or after 10 to 15 minutes for 15 to for 10 to 15-year-olds titigil na? Hindi po. After that amount of time, make them do something with the information you've just shared with them. Remember, the person doing the most talking is also the person doing the most learning. So what do I mean? So after you give an input, like the other time, no, my 6-year-old daughter, who's in kinder, was being taught by her teacher how to read a clock, how to read a minute and the hour hands, no? And I noticed very, very, particularly how the teacher was able to manage, discussing the parts of the clock for only 5 to 6 minutes. And after that, she asked the students, to get a clock from the house and make them point at the hand of the hours and the minutes. And then after engaging them in a small activity where they were allowed to play with the hands of the clock, then she went on teaching the lecture. Then she went on going back to the lesson. So what does that mean? After that amount of time, uh, uh, that's aligned to the age, or that's similar to the age of your target audience, right? Stop or pause for a few moments and make your students do something. Okay, that way they will not only be able to absorb what it was that you taught them, but immediately be able to see how what it was that you were sharing to them is actually useful, actually, very practical for them. Okay, so try to break down the presentation, try to break down the PowerPoint or the keynote into chunks that will allow you to speak or talk for the amount of time that's the same as the average age of the group in your audience. So that's the first thing that you'll have to keep in mind. Second, remember also, dear teachers, that your audience are visual learners. Okay, it has been proven by the philosophy of education research from Harvard University that students learn best when they see what it is that they're learning. So, whether it's a slide that you're demonstrating to them, whether it's an actual demonstration of a skill, right? If it's an equation in math or in science that you have to demonstrate, they learn it more when they see it. And guess what? Experts from the same university are also saying that information that's retained is highest. The percentage of information retained is highest when you both show and tell. So what does that mean? You just don't talk. Hindi lang po tayo magsasalita, whether it's online or on-site. Okay? We just don't continue talking this lesson without anything that will guide or aid the students in learning. Because if you only talk after 3 hours, right, they'll retain maybe 70% of the presentation. But after 3 days, based on the studies from Harvard, they'll only be able to retain 10%. If you show or demonstrate without really talking, or if you just give them reading materials, or if you make them go asynchronously on a certain topic, right? After 3 hours, they retain 72%. But after 3 days, based on the study, they'll only retain 20%. But the same study also shows that if you both talk or tell and show after 3 hours, they'll retain 85% of what it was that you taught. And after 3 days, they'll be able to retain around 65% of what it was that was learned in class. So, what does the study tell us, dear teachers? Let's try to make that effort to make sure that we are telling and showing accordingly. That as we talk, as we discuss the lesson with our students, right? We're also demonstrating, we're also showing how it is that it's most helpful for them, what things around the house or around the school can be connected to it, right? And how it is that what it is that's being shared by the teacher can be very meaningful or practical for the student. So that will challenge also your creativity in making sure that as you tell, you also show. And this will definitely be the most effective approach for students. And the last thing that I'd want you to keep in mind, just to talk about the background, is that remember, dear teachers, yung mga bata, lagi po silang nakatune in, hopefully, to the teachers with this radio station in mind, the WIIFM, no? May alam natin, RX and Magic and LS and so on. But every time you enter the classroom, every time you go into the training room, every time you face the audience, ang bawat ulo sa klase, whether on-site or online, every student, could be and has to be thinking, what's in it for me? How will I use this lesson? How will this lesson be beneficial for me? How can I make the most out of learning from this sharing by this teacher? Paano ako makikinabang dito? The WIIFM, dear teachers. Please keep in mind, that when you come in, they have to tune in. And you, as the teacher, through your presentation, will always have to play, those songs, to play the right tune, to play the right playlist that will answer the question, what's in it for me? And if you're able to keep that in mind, although syempre alam natin sa klase, iba-iba yung level ng mga bata, you will be able to connect to them more purposefully, more directly, more intimately, because you, through your lessons, are answering the question, what's in it for me? Okay? So I hope those are the things that we can also all be reminded of. We have to be able to track the time. We have to remember what percentage of information is retained when we tell, when we show, and when we show and tell. And every time we enter the lesson, we ask ourselves, uh, or the students ask themselves, what's in it for me? Okay. So let's go back to our big idea. So as we talk about all these, things about how we view the room, no, let's go back to the big idea again. Every time you create a presentation, every time you put together a presentation, what you want to be able to create or achieve at the end of the day is that you are also able to achieve or to make connections with your students. Okay, let's move on. Now, presenting, dear teachers, is like climbing a mountain. I remember in the year uh, 2020, towards the end of the year, I was so stressed with the work. We had around 600 students, 750 students in the senior high school. I had teachers who were also going through a lot of things, but were still carrying on with their work of teaching. And I really needed time to go out. And fortunately, I had a group of friends, some of the PE teachers in my faculty at the time, who invited me to go on a hiking activity, no, to a climbing activity or to a climbing event in Montalban, in Mount Parawagan in Montalban. And when I was there, no, sabi ko, dati nakaakyat na ako ng bundok, but it's been quite a while, no, since I last actually climbed a mountain. And when we got off the base camp or the foot of the mountain, I was given trekking poles by our guide. Eh, syempre, I didn't want to show that I was a rookie or that I was inexperienced. Sabi ko, hindi ko po kailangan ng trekking pole. Kayang-kaya ko yan, no? And so, bit-bit yung bags at yung pagkain, umakyat kami doon sa bundok, no? And I realized that as we were climbing, as we were hiking, no? Grabe po pala yung putek paakyat dun sa peak ng bundok. It was around an hour and a half climb to the peak. And I really struggled. I really had a hard time. I really found it very difficult to move with all my things. And because I had given up the chance to use trekking poles kasi may iba pong gumamit, I was really finding myself to be struggling as I hiked through the mountain. And I fell several times nung nadulas po ako nung I fell on my bottom, no? Several times, siguro 2 or 3 times. Pag upo ko po dun sa putek, syempre umikot po ako, tinignan ko kung may iba akong kasama, no, na nakakita sa akin. And because I was their boss, wala na lang sila pong sinasabi. But I knew very well that the people who were with me saw me fall and get my my pants and shoes very dirty, no. So pagdating po sa taas, ako po yung pinaka madumi, no? Puro putik po yung sapatos at pantalon ko. But it felt, great to be reaching the top in spite of the difficulty that I encountered. And then nung paparating na po kami sa peak, while I was struggling because unti-unti ko pong tinatahak yung bundok, no? Kasi nga wala po akong gamit, hindi po ako sanay, no? All of a sudden, may nakikita po akong mga mga trail joggers, no? Apparently, may mga ganung athletes po talaga na kahit gaano po katarik or kahit gaano ko po kaputik yung trail, may mga nagja-jogging. Kaya po nila tumakbo at top speed no matter how high, they're trekking or how low or how slippery the ground was at that time. And I said, wow, ako hirap na hirap. Binabantayan ko bawat pagtapak ko. And then here you have a group of joggers, even bikers, passing through the same path or passing through the same trail without experiencing that much difficulty. And I look back and really admired those people who were really experiencing it very differently the way I did when I climbed that mountain. And when I got off, I reflected and really, found a lot of inspiration from the people whom I saw or encountered during that hike. So what's my point, dear teachers? No, presenting is also like climbing a mountain. There are many steps that you have to be mindful of. There are many things that you have to do as a teacher in order for you to be able to successfully do it, to be able to successfully deliver your presentation, just like successfully climbing a mountain. So I'll briefly talk about some of these tips, based on some of my personal experiences that I've had, and based on some encounters I've had with people I've coached and helped also deliver their presentations. So the first step is preparation. Okay. So ganito po, teachers, bago pumasok sa klase, bago mag-log in sa link, before you take the stage or before you face your audience or your students, there are some practical tips that you can keep in mind. First is you read aloud. Ako po, dyaryo po ang binabasa ko. Or sometimes I read my daughter's nursery books, to just help me get the flow out, get the words out, so that when you find yourselves in front of the students, hindi na namamaga, no? Hindi na naninibago yung panga, yung jaws, or yung dila natin when we talk to our students, right? Also, one tip that experts are saying is that you can go ahead and massage your jaws. Yan, please go ahead and try it. For those who are watching, no, try to massage your jaws. It can relax your facial muscles, and help you go about delivering your presentations or speaking out or pronouncing the words better. Next is to say tongue twisters. Siopaw, siomay suman, Pasko paksiyo, 77 puting tupa. These are some icebreakers or tongue twisters that we say, to help us get ourselves into the mood, to help our tongues get loose, and to help our mouths and our words get more relaxed. That's one simple tip, that can help you ease into it. Third is, of course, to inhale and exhale. Minsan nakalimutan po nating huminga, no? Let's take time to breathe and breathe in, good air, and at the same time exhale air, Do take time to step out of the room for a while and breathe in air and exhale air to give you that much needed energy boost, maybe in the middle of the presentation or for the rest of the session. Fourth is to rehearse hand and body gestures. So if you have your MS Teams link or your Google Classroom Meet link, and you have a small square where your students are seeing you, what kind of hand gestures are you demonstrating? No? Are your hands just behind your back, or are you also showing a lot of excitement and enthusiasm by displaying your hand gestures in class? No, for the teachers teaching early years, no, very energetic, very dynamic yung mga nakikita nating hand gestures, and when the students follow, it's just magic to see how when the teacher leads something, everyone else takes cue, takes the cue from the teacher and follows what the teacher is doing. But as you are the presenter or the teacher, do take time to rehearse your both hand and body gestures. Next is to practice in front of a mirror. And this is related to the last point in the slide, is to visualize success. Teachers, bago po kayo pumasok sa klase or to hold your online class, Visualize yourself delivering the class. Picture yourself creating and designing and implementing the presentation that you prepared so hard for your students. And when you visualize yourself, dear teachers, visualize success. No, hindi yung visualize nyo na nahihirapan kayo or ito na naman yung problema na hindi makakonect yung mga bata. But of course, it's also crucial to do that. But at the same time, you have to have a mental image of what you think is successful teaching for you, whether online or on site. And that helps when you look at yourself in a mirror and you practice, and you visualize success, both for yourself and your students. Next, you get a feel of the venue of the or virtual room. Dati po, ginagawa ko po yan pag nasa classroom, no? Very early in the morning, I'll go to the class and walk around the classroom, get the feel of the air, get the feel of, the learning environment, and pretend that there are students in the room. Even for only a few minutes, you get the feel of that venue, and that will help you prepare better for your presentation. Or if it's a virtual room, make sure that you're fully familiar with how the platform is being navigated or being carried out or being seen by the students. So you have to be able to also see yourself in that virtual room, and or when you get a feel of it, you'll be more comfortable with the students tuning in or listening to you. Okay? Now, when you're teaching, especially pag nasa online po, dear teachers, please take a few moments also to walk around and stretch a little, relax your muscles a bit, and that will get, the nervousness away. But at the same time, it will also help you see a different perspective of things, whether it's your students or yourself. Next is of course to drink water. Pag teachers, lagi po dapat may katabing bote or baso ng tubig. Okay, so that you're always refreshed. Remember, the throat easily gets dry for us speakers and teachers, and when we're able to drink water, we're also able to bring in, more energy, more nutrients into the body that can last you throughout the class. Next is, of course, to dress appropriately. Alam niyo naman po, yung mga bata napapansin even the smallest things based on how you dress or what they see around your room. So make sure that you're also particular, because anything, dear teachers, that can distract their attention can disengage them from your lesson or your presentation. Of course, do profile the audience, dear teachers. Where are they coming from? Why are they in class? Napipilitan lang ba? Ano yung mga challenges or struggles, that the members of this class are encountering or experiencing? And by profiling the audience, you're able to adjust your lesson accordingly, your language purposefully, right? Or your strategies and approaches very deliberately. So make sure that you're also able to read the audience very well. And then, of course, teachers, organize your materials, okay? The students can see right through us pag hindi tayo handa. Pag nakikita nila na puro videos lang yung pinapakita natin, pag nakikita nila na puro kwento lang si sir at si ma'am, no? At parang hindi maayos yung flow ng lessons. These kids that we are dealing with or teaching now are very smart. They're very intelligent, especially when it comes to tech. Perhaps they know even more than we do. So we have to be able to organize our materials and show them that we're not behind them, right? And that we know what we are teaching. And that helps, dear teachers, every time you organize your materials. So ako po, pag nagkaklase ako po, piniprint ko po yung slides ko. And beside it, I have my notes or my comments to help me with the presentation. Or for teachers, I know even when you're delivering classes online, it will always be helpful to have your lesson plan or any learning materials beside you, even as you guide the students through online learning platforms or apps. It helps that your materials are always organized. Okay? Next, set up your tech. Nako, ayan, katulad po nung sinabi ko kanina, no? That students are very savvy when it comes to tech. Dapat hindi po tayo nagpapahuli. Dapat pakita natin na kaya rin natin i-harness ang lahat ng potential, no? Ng technology at our disposal. And that will show the students that, hey, the teacher is prepared and that the teacher knows what he or she is doing. We prepare for different scenarios. Ang dami pong pwedeng mangyari. Umulan lang, humangin lang po ng malakas, apektado na po ang internet. Pag naubusan po ng load, no? Or hindi po maging maganda yung connection, nadi-disrupt yung flow ni teacher or ng bata. So we have to be prepared. And I'm sure many of the webinars that you've encountered cannot emphasize this enough, no? That no matter how prepared you are, even if you already have plans A to E, di ba? It will always help to have plans F to Z even after that. And teachers, alam niyo din naman, no? Kahit maubusan na yung plano, no? Even at the spur of the moment, makaisip po lagi kayo ng diskarte or ng strategy, right? That can still help you get out of the stickiest of situations or the most most challenging of situations, right? And so you have to be able to adjust and be flexible and deal with whatever situation comes your way. So teachers, you see, ang dami kong binanggit, no, about preparation. And similar to climbing a mountain, that's what will really help you succeed. That's what will really help you climb your mountain well. If you do the work well enough ahead of time, that will more than, adequately make you climb that mountain quite successfully. And so you prepared so well. And then how do you deliver the lesson? I know each one of you has your own strategies and techniques, right? And the way you structure your lessons, iba-iba po ang approach then per school or per teacher, right? But really, when you talk about how a presentation is structured, there are three things that are essential to any presentation or lesson. And these are the following. Simple lang po yan, teachers. Yan po ang I, B, and C. Introduction, body, and conclusion. No? Now, first, pag nagpakilala po ng lesson, no, we introduce it to the kids, and we know that if it's called prelection, or if we know if it's called an engaging activity or the hook for some schools or for some teachers, right? There are so many ways to do it, and these are some of the examples. You can tell a story. Remember, teachers, ang stories na kinikwento po natin sa mga bata, they don't have to be stories of showbiz celebrities or personalities or politicians all the time, or people who are always familiar, whom students are familiar with. Dear teachers, the best stories are the stories that are your own stories. When you speak from your own experience, you speak with passion, dear teachers. And the story that you tell them carries more fire and feeling. Okay? Stories don't need to be funny. Hindi naman kailangan puro jokes lagi, no? What stories need to be is to be real stories. Yan po ang talagang makakakonect sa mga bata, dear teachers. The stories that you tell have to be your own stories. The myriad of little stories about your life that you put together, dear teachers, digs deep, into a pool of very rich life lessons and experiences that you can always share with your students or with your colleagues. So please make sure that the stories that you tell are your own stories, but at the same time, make sure na may connection po dun sa mga lessons na tinuturo. But students will most appreciate if the stories that you tell are the stories that are from your own set of experiences. Next is question. No? What superhero power would you like to have? If you could be an animal, what would you be and why? Describe that animal. What's the best advice you've ever heard from a friend? What's a skill you would love to have? There are so many ways to start the lesson or to start your presentation with a question. And make sure that the question is intriguing. Make sure that the question provokes, thought and interest, right? among your students. Talk about the games they play or the shows they watch, right? Talk about some of the experience that they have by asking very good questions to them, and you will immediately get them engaged in your presentation. You can also share statistics or a quote, but make sure, dear teachers, that you recognize who that quote is from. Okay? Remember, pag kami ginamit pong quote, no, there's no excuse for pretending that it's you who's saying it. Hindi po. We have to properly recognize the person or the institution where the quote comes from. And somehow we're able also to connect that to the lessons or to the design of the presentation that's being delivered to the students. You can show images, start with a picture, remember, and follow them up with engaging questions. You can use a prop. You can hold something up and make the students see what it is that you're holding, and make them either describe it or show that it's connected to the lesson. I remember watching a history class before. Ang lesson po niya was, the very political environment that the Philippines encountered in the 80s, no? And then this teacher brought materials that his parents gathered during the period of the EDSA People Power Revolution. So may dala po siyang t-shirt, may dala po siyang poster, may dala po siyang posters that he got maybe from the baul of his parents or his grandparents, right? And when he showed that, to the students, nakita nila na, wow, this is not just another PowerPoint lesson that's being shown. There are objects that also speak volumes about, the lesson here. And the teacher was able to connect that very well to the discussion that he had at that time. Okay, you can also play music the moment students enter the room, whether online or on site. They can be stimulated with the music that they hear, but at the same time you can also start with a good video. But there are also a lot of things that you need to remember, teachers, about playing videos. No? Hindi po ibig sabihin that when we play a video from YouTube, or when we even play a video that's been curated, right, that automatically students will tune in. No, there are ways to do it properly, and that will involve you simply like giving questions to them as to what they can look forward into the video, and even after showing the video, processing questions that can help them make sense of what it was that they watched. So that and more other strategies and techniques are ways to introduce your lesson, or ways to get your presentation started. Second part is the body. So these are the lessons that you deliver with visual aids. Ito po, teachers, kayo ang may alam yan. Paano ituturo ang quadratic equations, no? Paano ituturo ang sentences and paragraphs? Paano po ituturo ang volcanoes, right? That's the content that you have to be able to master. And when the students ask you questions about it, of course, you always have to be able to show supporting data and facts. And in your presentation, all these are integrated as well. And of course, the lesson comes to life when you are able to talk about real examples to our students. I remember again, noong 2020, di ba po, dear teachers, bago po nag-COVID, sumabog po ang Taal Volcano dito sa Tagaytay, no? And I remember at that time, there were there was a science class that I also observed, that used the experience of the people when it came to dealing with the situation regarding Taal at that time. So the story or the lesson really came to life, and that's how things get more relatable, get better for students, and easier for them to understand. Okay, Lord, thank you for sharing that in calculus you use boxes, papers, and even tasty bread to show optimization. See how we are also challenged to be creative. Even if you're teaching very complex calculus lessons, you're able to use simple materials around your house or around the school to demonstrate the concepts and help the students understand them better. All right. Next, of course, is to conclude. So, teachers, na-introduce na natin yung design, no? We put together the body of the presentation. Later, I'll talk a bit about more of that. And how do you end? Usually, we end with a test or a homework or a seat work or an assessment. But more than that, dear teachers, let's also remember to challenge our students by giving them a call to action. What can they do with what they've just learned to help make society better, to help them see that what it is that they learned can actually be something useful for them, their communities, their families, themselves, the country, and even the world. And usually you have these powerful closing statements that can tie up very neatly the lessons that you are discussing in class. So it just doesn't end with a test. It just doesn't end with work that you ask them to do, but it ends with actually a very meaningful session that will help them bring home, very valuable inputs, very valuable insights for class. Madalas, busy-busy na tayo, na minamadali na natin yung lesson. But remember, dear teachers, that will spell really the difference between the good presentations and the not so good presentations if you're able to synthesize and do your conclusions very effectively, very deliberately. Okay? So kanina po, we talked about presentation and then we talked about the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And finally, we talk about reflection. Pagkatapos niyo pong nag-present, ask yourselves, dear teachers, did your stories, examples, or jokes connect to the learners kahit corny siya? The fact na maalala nila na corny yung joke, seems to show or demonstrate that you actually connected with them. No? Did your examples make sense to your students? Did your stories relate well or resonate to their own set of experiences? Okay, and then you can also ask, what questions did they ask or inquire about? May sense po ba yung mga tinatanong ng mga bata? Kung walang sense, baka may problema po dun sa presentation. And so you always have to be constantly asking yourselves these questions as well. What questions did the students ask? Then, what strategies and techniques work or did not work? Yung game po ba engaged everyone or just a few? No? Did the Kahoot activity actually bring everyone together to that game? Did the quizzes or the Padlet strategy work well in this lesson? So you can also ask those things. And then, of course, ay gusto ko rin, teachers, na tanungin nyo rin yung mga sarili nyo, did you have fun presenting and delivering the lesson? At the end of the day, as much as the presentation or lesson, is for the students, it's also for you, right? But make sure that you have fun. And when you show that you're having fun, when you show that you're enthusiastic and energetic about what you're doing, nakakahawa po yan, teachers. Show it to them and they will demonstrate, or they will also show that they're also having fun while learning. It will be reciprocated the moment you show it yourself. And of course, ultimately, the question that you ask, how can I improve better next time? Hindi po tayo nagiging magaling na teacher overnight, no? Hindi po tayo nagiging napakahusay ng mga guro in a few weeks. It takes time, no? It takes sometimes us to recognize that we're in it for the long run, right? For the long game. And but what's important is that you're always asking the question, tinuro ko to last year, how will I do it better this year? No? Ito yung naging strategy ko nung isang SEM, how will I do it better this semester? This strategy did not work so well. Will I change it or will I improve it? So always ask that question, how can I improve better next time? Ako, teachers, every time I go out or, be attending a webinar or my own class, even when I was in grad school, no? Ang nakatatak po sa isip ko, paano ko to ituturo? How will I be able to teach what I am learning? No? I guess for all of us teachers, no? That seems to be automatic, no? Matic po yan, mga teachers. When we learn something new or we encounter something in the news or we were excited about a new discovery about the lessons or the subjects that we're handling, kahit papaano tinatanong natin, how will we teach this? What strategies will I use in the classroom that will help me become, an effective presenter of this lesson to my students? And that kind of questioning, that discipline will definitely help you teachers all the time. So again, let's go back to our big idea. When we make a presentation, dear teachers, when we prepare, when we introduce, when we work on the body of our presentation, and when we conclude, and when we reflect, our point at the end of the day is to always make sure that we are creating meaningful connections with our students. Okay, so let's go back again to that big idea, dear teachers. Okay, now again, let's go back to guessing some of the phrases. I'll throw it back to you. Please do type into the chat box what you think this image is trying to show or depict. Please go ahead, dear teachers, and type into the chat box what you think this visual image is trying to tell us. While I have a drink of water, kayo rin po, please go ahead and refresh yourselves with water or anything that can also help you with the presentation as we proceed to the last part. Thank you, Angel, for saying moving forward. And Jen, thank you. It's related. Okay. Greg says it's moving along the trails. And JC also said, moving forward, excuse me. You're all right, no? Pero ang pinapakita po natin dito is all very closely connected to what you're saying. It's moving on the right track, no? So teachers, when we start really developing, enhancing the skills, you really are moving on the right track, no? And you continue developing, hindi lang naman presentations yung pag-aaralan nyo or i-develop nyo in yourselves. There are so many other techniques that you can put together in your repertoire of skills that can help you become not just excellent presenters, but excellent teachers as well. How about this one, teachers? This is a bit challenging, but I'm sure you'd be able to get it. I'm sure you'll be able to figure out kung ano po yung hinahanap po natin dito. Okay. We see here that there are letters that form a word, right? But you also see images of a human person, right? And the words seem to be intertwined or weaved into the images of the human that you're seeing. Kyla says, you only live once. Or Sonia, thank you for saying that it's once. Okay? Pero kulang pa po. Kimberly, lifelong learning, it's connected to that, right? But let's focus on the image and what you think is being depicted here. Melinda says you only live once, and that's very close to the answer, dear teachers. JV, circle of life, yes, very close as well. Okay, what this phrase is showing here, dear teachers, is the idiom or the phrase "once in a lifetime." No? Why am I showing this? Because, dear teachers, when your students encounter you, when your students experience your classes, when your students listen to you, you are their once in a lifetime experience. And you know what? Make the most out of it. You know what? Make sure that that once in a lifetime experience with you is something that they will bring with them for their entire lives. Is something na babaunin po nila all the times of their life. And when they share with their kids or with their students later on or with their employees when become business leaders someday, the things that you taught, is something that they'll also share with people who will be with them. But at the same time, the things that they're also able to catch, the things that are caught when they encounter you is something that will also truly help other people. Okay, so make sure that you are that teacher that's once in a lifetime experience for them. And finally, ito po, teachers, this is our last visual image for tonight. What is it that the image is depicting or showing here? Which I think really is very relevant to all of you as you continue to soldier on in this time of the pandemic. Please, yes, thank you, Miss Maria Elena Albania. Pat on the back, no? Dear teachers, again, di ba? Sa dami-dami po na pinagdadaanan, hindi lang po ng mga bata, kundi po kayo rin, you know. You definitely deserve a pat on the back. And by being in this webinar, and by being willing to learn and explore new things for yourself, and by always finding ways to become better teachers, you deserve a pat on the back. Minsan hindi po certificate ang kailangan natin, minsan hindi po medal or trophy ang kailangan natin. What you need is that simple affirmation that teachers, sige lang po, magturo lang po tayo, kaya po natin to. And let's continue educating and mentoring and forming our students the best way we can. And so teachers, you all definitely deserve a pat on the back. Okay, and let's proceed to our final part of the presentation. Again, let's go back to our big idea. At the end of the day, dear teachers, marami po kayong natutunang new skills. Marami po kayong natutunang new strategies and techniques. But if you're unable to connect with your students, those won't make any sense. Those things won't really be helpful. So again, build your talents, build your skills. At the end of the day, right? What's important is that you are able to make those meaningful connections with your students. Okay. Now, pag nasa harap po kayo ng mga bata, ano, kayo po ang keynote speaker. It doesn't have to be a guest or a big person all the time. It doesn't have to be a distinguished resource person all the time. Kayo po, dear teachers, ang keynote speakers ng mga bata araw-araw, whether on-site or online. And when you're the keynote speaker and when you're presenting using slides or visual aids, there are some techniques or tips that you have to be mindful of. And these are the following. Key one, pag may visual aids po kayo or may slides po kayo, whether it's PowerPoint, Canva, or Keynote, make sure po, dear teachers, that you have a polished presentation. I'd like to thank the teachers who are requesting, for the slides, for these slides on the screen. Yes, we will share with KTS some of the things that are being shared here so that you can use them. Kailangan po magtulungan po tayo mga teachers. But as you've noticed, and I hope you're also taking note of how some of the slides have been designed, make sure that it's clean and polished at hindi po nakakalito para po sa mga audience, no? Make your look of your presentation sharp and appropriate. And press W or B. Ano pong ibig sabihin niyan? Pag pinress niyo po ang W sa PowerPoint, nakita niyo po is a white screen. And so why do you do that? Because when it's just a white screen, the students won't be distracted and they will pay attention to you. When you click it again and when you press the letter B, because it says press B, it becomes a black screen and you can divert the attention or direct the attention of the students from the screen to you if it's online. But even if it's on-site, pag nasa projector po, those things always work. Remember, teachers, hindi po kailangan may naka-project all the time, no? These are visual aids, but the one that's most important in the class is you as the speaker. Okay? Some pro tips, dear teachers. Ito po, marami pong templates. But for me, ang ginagamit ko po are templates from slidesgo.com, slidescarnival.com, and presentationmagazine.com. So after this presentation, or later on when you make your presentations, go ahead and look at some of these sites that can help you with your presentations. So key one is clean it. Key two, dear teachers, is read it. Test your font size. Pagka maliit po masyado, hindi na po babasahin yan ng mga bata. Pag hindi na po nila nabasa, then they will start getting disengaged from the presentation. Second, resist the urge to use a variety of fonts. No? If you want to make the look of your presentation polished, make sure that it's consistent. Okay? Naka-distract din po na iba-iba po yung fonts na ginagamit. But make sure it's appropriate as well. Especially for early learners, they want more fun and colorful fonts and appearances as well. So please go ahead and share that with them and do it that way. Of course, use colors for emphasis. Nako, teachers, naalala ko pa, when I was teaching before, we had PowerPoint, but I still do remember using Manila paper. And I remember a colleague right beside my Karel in the faculty room na very religious pa siya sa paggamit po ng iba't ibang kulay ng marker to write on the Manila paper using different colors of markers, no? And those colors are used for emphasis. When we use PowerPoint or Keynote or Prezi or whatever it is that you're using, use different colors for emphasis. All you have to do is to click that tab and change the color. Hindi na po kailangan bumili ng marker or gumamit ng ibang art materials that can help you achieve emphasis for some terms or phrases. Okay? Of course, contrast the colors of your text and background. Simple lang po yan, teachers. Pagka light po ang background, make your text dark. Pagka dark po, ang background, make your text light. Remember, the goal of your visual aids is to help the students see what you're teaching, and you have to be able to guide them that way. Next is to spell check your slides. The moment students see that there are things that are spelled wrongly, like the word check, in this sentence, it affects the reputation or the credibility, not just of the lesson, but of the teacher. And this is connected to the second item, to the next item rather, which is to proofread for grammatical accuracy. Remember, teachers, that it will always help that you proofread and double check or triple check what it is that you're posting on your visual aids, because that affects the credibility of the presentation. Avoid pixelated images, teachers. Minsan po pag sinistretch po natin yung image, it affects the quality. But at the same time, it also tells you that they're not intended, to be used that way, and that you have to keep the visual image quality of the images. That will help your students see the images better. And make sure that you make your presentation easy on the eyes. Dapat po magaang sa mata, dapat po nababasa po ng mga bata, dapat po hindi magtatanong mga bata ano po yung nakasulat or hindi po malinaw yung instruction. No, we do our best to make sure that the things that we're presenting or showing to the kids are always easy on the eyes and guiding them learn. Okay, ganito po, an example of a word slide contest. Go ahead, dear teachers, and post into the chat box what you think are the things that are wrong in this slide or problematic in this slide or in these slides. There are 2 slides. Go ahead. Please go ahead, dear teachers. Ano po yung mga nakikita nating problema? Ano po yung mga nakikita nating issues or problems or difficulties in the slides that I'm showing here? Thank you, Mr. Voice Educator PH. Inappropriate images. You're talking about design for social change, but you see a hot dog and a rabbit. Diba? There's no space, the slide on the right. Siguro kasi gusto makita yung flow, no? But in the process of doing so, text has become so small and problematic. There's just too much info and it's too crowded. Thank you, Nina, for recommending the 6x6 words rule. That means that you, as much as possible, try to have 6 lines with 6 words per line. All right? It's chaotic, mabigat sa mata, no? Ang sakit sa mata. And really, it doesn't help the teacher deliver the lesson or the presentation better, no? And absolutely, thank you, Lamberto, that the use of pictures are not connected to the topic of the presentation. Ngayon tinatawanan natin yan, teachers, no? Or we mock it, right? But still, when we look at some presentations that we encounter, in some classes or in some webinars, or sometimes when our students make reports, right? We see these kinds of mistakes and errors all the time. And again, it's our responsibility as teachers to be able to correct them as well. Okay, so please make sure that these tips that I'm sharing you in designing your slides will be put into practice later on. So let's move on. Key 3, move it. Okay. Ngayon, teachers, this is more applicable for on-site, but let me share them with you as well. Stand to the left of the screen. Bakit po kaya na pag nasa harap po kayo ng mga bata and you have your blackboard or your whiteboard or your projection screen, why is it advisable to stand to the left of the screen? Okay? And very simple lang po ang reason for that. When you stand to the left of the screen and when you talk about your lesson or show your presentation, the students look at you, okay, at the left of the screen, and when you direct them to your slide or to your visual aids, the flow of their eyes moves from left to right, the same way they are reading, the same way they go through the process of reading text from left to right. Ganun din po pag nagpe-present or when you're in front of the class. As much as possible, try to stay in the left side so that when you address them to the screen, the flow of their eyes is similar to the way that they are reading or to the way that they are appreciating text. Okay? So try to practice that. Of course, wala naman pong mali if you're in the right of the screen, but you will find that it will be easier for students if they follow that flow and it will become more natural for them. Okay? Move away from the podium when you're in front of a crowd. Remember, pagka gumalaw-galaw po tayo sa klase or sa room, moving is also a practice of classroom management and discipline. Pag pumunta po kayo sa isang side ng klase, no? Pag nakita ng mga bata na mas malapit kayo sa kanila, nako, mas makikinig yan. Or when you walk all the way to the end of the class, nako, yung mga nasa likod na kung ano-ano yung ginagawa, titigilan po nila yung ginagawa at makikinig po yan, right? So you move away from the podium. I remember my department chair, again, on my first year of teaching in this exclusive all-boys school, no? Inobserve po ako sa klase, and after class, no, she would give me her points for recommendation. But in her observation sheet, may diagram po siya nung classroom. And she maps out all my movement inside the class. So pinakita po niya sa akin, oh, at this moment during the class, you walk to this area. At this moment during the class, you were staying in this area more and more. So that really helped me be more conscious of how I move around the class. And that helped me get away from the podium and also use it as a very helpful classroom management tool and technique. Okay, next, keep the view clear. Minsan po, nabablock po ang view sa screen, no? So make sure that you're avoiding that. Because anytime the students find it hard to copy notes or read what it is that they have to, it also detaches or disengages them. So dear teachers, keep the view clear. Okay, pro tip in an online classroom also, just like I shared with you earlier, make sure you know how your students are seeing you on the screen. Yung mga props niyo po sa likod, the pets, the people who are moving around, the lighting, what you wear, what your decorations are. Minsan po, may ino-observe po akong teacher, nako po, may mga nakasampay na mga labada po sa likod. And I had to talk to the teacher, of course, to also prepare the venue for classroom teaching. No? And so you have to make sure that you are very much aware of what your students are seeing when you're delivering your presentations or your classes online. And when you have videos, dear teachers, make sure that you test it. When you want to play an audio clip, or you want them to listen to music, sound check your audio. And when you have slides like what I'm showing you now, and you are moving from one slide to another kasi marami po kayong kailangan i-present, make sure you test your slide transitions. No? Pro tip there, dear teachers, ask a trusted colleague to test the presentation with you. Bago nyo po isalang yan, bago po kayo humarap sa mga tao. No? Ask a friend or a friend from the faculty, right? To test the presentation with you so that you can address the issues or the problems concerning your video or your audio and your transitions. Okay, key 5, dear teachers, explain your lessons or your presentations with clarity and avoid simply reading the text on the slides. Minsan po, naiisip natin yan na pagka binasa po natin lahat ng nakaproject, okay na tayo, naintindihan na ng mga bata yan, na-gets na ng mga estudyante yan. No? But that's not the case. Avoid simply reading the text because merely reading the slides, dear teachers, doesn't mean that the students are learning. The visual aids are just those. They are aids. You are still the teacher and they will have to learn from you and not merely the slides. Okay? So you make sure that as you explain, you engage them. Dun nyo po gamitin yung magic nyo as teachers. Whether they're questioning skills or your facilitating skills or your games or your activities, right? Bring that magic into the classroom. But please don't just merely read the slides, because definitely students won't learn when you simply read the slides that are being demonstrated or shown in the screen. So these are some tips, dear teachers. Again, when you are able to put them in your presentation, what you have to be able to achieve at the end of it all is meaningful connection. Huwag po natin kalimutan yan, that as you make or design your presentations, you are really after the important fact of creating or achieving connections. A few more tips before we go, dear teachers. Key six, because I said you are uh, the keynote speaker of your classes, right? Of your students. Key six, especially now for online learning, is for you to anticipate it. Plan for participation. Kahit online po yan. How will you make the students respond? How will you make the students participate actively in the discussion? Is it showing, is it asking them to show emoticons in the chat box? Is it asking them to put responses on Padlet or into your screen? Is it asking them to show you a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or to show a face of a sad face or a happy face when you want them to react to what it is that you're teaching or sharing with them? Go ahead and plan for participation. Turo participation. Ganun po ang technique natin, dear teachers, okay? Based on the time that I shared with you earlier. And of course, prepare for problems. And you can do that by reading the room. Pagka inip na po yung mga bata, dear teachers, or when you feel that you're no longer connecting with them, perhaps it's time to adjust. Perhaps it's time to stop a bit, pause for a few moments, and shift or change your strategy a bit, right? So go ahead and prepare for them and have, again, that bag of tricks beside you to be able to anticipate different scenarios in the room. Next is to shift it. So kung gagamit po kayo ng ibang apps, dear teachers, make sure that you're able to do it well. Shift from one application to another. Yung mga bata, mabilis po sa ganyan, no? And when they see it, that you're also able to do it well, it enhances or increases engagement. Ako po, the most that I use are Padlet, Mentimeter, and because I'm also an economics teacher, I use Gapminder a lot. So these are tips that you can use all the time. Okay? So shift from one application to another, but make sure that you're able to do it well. Key 8, teachers, rehearse it. Again, naalala ko po nung bago po akong teacher, no? Tinatawanan ko po yung ibang teachers in the faculty room who would stand in front of a mirror and really rehearse, really practice their lines. But later on, I found myself doing the same things, no? That I found myself practicing in front of a mirror. Kahit gaano katagal na po tayong nagtuturo, kahit gaano ka-experience na po tayo sa classroom, whether on-site, again, or online, it will always help if you practice. Write your talking points down. Kahit po may lesson plan tayo, sulatan niyo po yan ng notations or guides, that can help you explain the concepts or the topics better. And of course, again, anticipate different scenarios. Pati po yung pag-shift ng problema, right? Pati po yung pag-shift ng strategy because we have problems, pinapractice din po yan. Okay, class. So if you are having problems connecting or seeing the video, please make sure that you're able to go to this link after class and watch the video. So that shows that you're prepared for it. Or class, if you're unable to follow what it is that I'm presenting here, please make sure that you download the topic notes or the learning materials that can help you understand the topics better or the lesson better. So you anticipate the different scenarios there. So dear teachers, huwag pong mahiya kahit naririnig po kayo ng ibang kasama sa bahay to keep rehearsing the topics or the presentation that you have. Key 9, dear teachers, make your presentations shine. Remember, no? The presentation becomes you. no? Pag umuwi po yung bata and they talk to their parents, and they see that, wow, the lesson was very engaging. I really learned a lot. I really picked up a lot from the experience today. It was not just you. It was not, just the way you spoke, right? But what it was that they received in the form of the visual aids and in form of the materials that you shared with them. And that, of course, will go back to how you prepare it. So you make sure that you make your presentation shine. So key nine is deliver it. And finally, remember, dear teachers, you have to own it. You are the presenter, not the slides. Hindi po ang PowerPoint or ang Keynote or ang PDF or ang Canva or Slides Go or Slides Carnival ang teacher. Kayo po ang teacher. The slides are just there to help you. But make sure that they help you the right way. They help you the best way so that you can also become the right and the best teacher that you can be. Own it, dear teachers. You are the presenter and not the slides. But when you use slides, make sure that they're really of the best quality that you can ever make for your students so that they can really help understand and learn the lessons that you are sharing. So finally, dear teachers, the tip is to present it, no? Grab every opportunity to present. Kung sa faculty meeting po yan, if you're addressing guests, in school, or if you're meeting students, or other people who are helping you in your craft, present it. Grab every opportunity to present it. Nung na-invite po ako ni Sir Franco dito sa KTS, I immediately said yes because I knew it was going to be an opportunity to share what I have experienced and I have learned from those years of teaching and training to many teachers here today. At the same time, dear teachers, when you are given the chance or when you are invited to also present here or share what you know, grab it. Don't say no, no? Take that opportunity to share with, teachers around us, your insights, your techniques, your strategies, so that they become excellent and better teachers as well. Okay. So finally, let's go back to what it is that we really want. No, our big idea is presentation equals connection. At the end of the day, dear teachers, tayo pong mga guro, no? Busy po tayo. Lahat po kayo, napakagagaling nyo pong gumawa ng mga lesson designs and materials and visual aids, right? And all those things that make our classes really engaging, very exciting, very challenging for our students. And all these fall under the work that we do in presentations. But at the end of the day, what's really essential, what's really important, what really matters for our students is that you are able to connect with them. More than anything else, yan po ang pinakamalhaga, teachers. When we make our presentations, we make connections. So thank you for listening, dear teachers. I hope I was able to share some tips and insights with you today. If you have any questions, I think we have a few minutes for some questions tonight. But if you also have questions and you'd like to email me, or also, if you have events where you think I'd also be able to help you out, my email is jake@acadasia.com. Please feel free to look at our website as well. We're a network of teachers and educators, not just from the Philippines, but from around the world. We help teachers do three things. First is to be part of a global community of educators. Second is to upskill because we have professional development courses on our platform called FreeJu. So please feel free to go ahead and check them out. And third, we also help teachers design online courses and classes through the authoring techniques and strategies that we have there. So thank you. And you know what, teachers? Just continue to teach on. And remember, our big idea, presentation equals connection. Thank you, Sir Franco, and thank you to all the teachers. Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat.
Yan, thank you so much. Maraming salamat, Sir Jake, no, sa siksik, liglig at umaapaw. Sabi nga ng mga teachers natin sa chat, no, siksik, liglig at umaapaw na learning experience, no, from you and from your sharing for tonight, no. So again, ang ganda ng big idea. Doon pa lang sa big idea talaga, no, na na-capture mo na kaagad, Sir Jake, no, yung what a presentation should be. It's not about to like impress someone. It's not about to tell someone that you're better than them or that you are that you have so much knowledge. No, it's about really making connections. No, establishing that connections to your listeners or to your audience. Okay. So teachers, we still have some time, around 7 minutes for some questions. Kay for kanina teacher Sir Jake, no, I'm observing the chat. Walang masyadong questions or katanungan ng teacher. So wala po ako na-collect. So baka po ngayon may mga katanungan na po ang ating mga teachers. So let's
Sure.
teachers, we'll be waiting for your questions in the chat if you have, okay? Para po
Wag
masagot, no? Pero
wag mahiya,
Sir
okey
Jake,
lang.
no?
Oo.
Sir Jake, siguro habang naghihintay po tayo ng katanungan sa ating mga teachers, no? Ayun, sabi ng Teacher Ram, galing ni Sir, napatunganga ako at napakaganda. Ang galing niyo po. Yan,
Salamat
si
po,
Teacher Ram,
salamat
no?
po.
Ako Teacher Sir Jake 'no, kasi kanina ang dami mong na-mention po na tips na sobrang ganda ng tips lalo dun sa preparation pa lang 'no. Pero Sir Jake kanina isa sa mga concern ng mga teachers natin is that, teaching in the public school, with the workload and everything 'no, sometimes we are not given enough time, to actually do all of these preparations, okay? So, Sir Jake, if there are like for example top 3 or top 5 na quick preparation tips na gusto mo ibigay or piliin 'no or i-prioritize ng mga teachers natin. Kasi nga, the workload, magagawa pa ng lesson plan, attend ng mga webinars. Ngayon ang mga teachers po natin, Sir Jake, ay maraming mga inset ngayon ano, may mga pinupuntahan po sila mga webinar kaya actually nagulat din ako ngayon na ang dami pa ring pumupunta sa mga webinars natin while our teachers are busy. So, Sir Jake, 3 to 5 among the tips na binigay mo, anin din yung siguro like non-negotiable for preparing a presentation?
Mm. Siguro Franco, especially for me 'no, ako ang tagal kong gumagawa ng presentation kasi I put a lot of thought into it 'no. Um, and I think especially teachers who are here 'no, maybe the top 3 tips also that you have to be very mindful of is that, 'pag nasa harap po tayo ng mga bata, minsan nadadala tayo sa lahat ng kabisihan natin 'no, sa trabaho, but we forget at most times where the students are coming from, what the context is, 'di ba? Ano yung pinanggagalingan nila? Ito ba yung mga bata na hindi naging maganda ang experience sa online learning, or may mga, let's say, yung profile ng learners or ng students come from communities that are very challenged, right? So we have to really have a deep understanding of where the students are coming from. So we have to know the context kasi doon natin ma-design best yung lessons based on our understanding of where they're coming from. Second, I think being teachers, being designers of presentations, kailangan matapang din tayo, Franco. We have to be courageous. We have to have that conviction as well to try new things out. It doesn't mean na kung yung style natin before work, ganun na lang lagi yung style natin, no? We have to be able to put into practice the new things that we're learning. And that will involve failures, right? That will involve a trial and error process, di ba? But if you are able to see that you're brave enough, matapang ka, malakas ang loob mo to try new things out, then makita mo that it will flow naturally into the way you do things. And that means that you're able to explore more and more, and madagdagan pa yung talents and skills mo as a teacher, as a presenter, no? And then finally, of course, Franco, I guess, cliche as it may sound, kailangan mo, mahal mo talaga yung pagtuturo eh. No? Sa hirap magturo, on-site teaching, it's hard enough, it's tough enough. Naalala ko po dati talagang walang tulugan yan kasi bukod sa pag-prepare ng presentation, nagche-check pa tayo teachers, no? Habang nagche-check tayo, iniisip natin ano yung activity natin next day. Tapos ito, ang dami pang tips na kailangan gawin for presentations. But the love you have for teaching and the profession and the students and the art that we're doing is something that will get you through, no? So context, courage, and again, cliche as it may sound, corny as it may sound, di ba? Yung pagmamahal sa pagtuturo. These are the things that will really get us through and help us become better, presenters, better teachers there.
Maraming salamat, Sir Jake, 'no. I think that that's true for all cases, 'no, being a teacher. Lalo na ano, Sir Jake, 'no, yung that passion, 'no, talaga is, always there, 'no. Kasi totoo lang, hindi naman talaga natin ikayayaman ang pagiging teacher, 'no. Kung talaga kung
Alam
gusto mong
natin
yumaman
yan.
talagang ibang profession, 'no.
Yes,
Pero
alam
teachers,
natin yan.
pinapasok talaga natin 'tong pagiging guro dahil because of our passion, 'no. That desire to actually, help our students.
Yeah, and
Sir
Franco, to add
Jake,
to that,
ito
right?
go ahead.
Sorry, to
Go ahead
add
po.
to that, nabanggit mo, no, na hindi tayo yaman, pero, over the years, ang dami na nating nakitang estudyante natin, di ba? And I'm sure all the teachers who are here now who have grown to be very successful. You know what I realized, Franco? Their success is our success. Di ba? We celebrate the achievements of our students, but in reality, the kind of success that they've achieved also cuts deep to ourselves na success din natin yon. They may be big businessmen or community leaders, and you are part of that success, no? And it's so nice, it's so fulfilling to see them very successful. Pag successful sila, successful din ang teacher.
Correct, sir, 'no, agree on that one. Iba yung yaman nating mga teachers, 'no. Hindi ito
Yes.
basta-basta susukat, ng mga numero. Yan. Anyway, Sir Jake, there's a question from, Teacher Sonia Aninipot. Sir Jake, may standard font size po ba ang preparing ng presentation?
Hi Sonia, thank you for that question. Alam nyo, pinag-aralan niya ng experts, pinag-aralan niya ng training practitioners, and they're saying in a classroom, no, in a room of maybe a venue of 30 to 35 students, no, ganun din ang font size na standard that's observed, minimum of 30 font size. Okay, yun ang sinasabi ng
Wow.
experts. Minimum of
So, meron na
30.
tayong number, 'no?
May numero talaga yan, no? Pero alam nyo, ang ginagawa ko pagka ganyan, Franco, kasi iba-iba yung venue eh. Minsan classroom, minsan chapel, minsan gym, no? Minsan convention center. Iba-iba yung venue, tapos iba-iba rin yung projection sa screen, right? So ang ginagawa ko dyan, whether ako or yung kasama ko, ang ginagawa ko, I make my colleague or my crew stand at the back of the venue and tell me kung nababasa nila yung text. No? And tell me kung hindi nahihirapan yung audience to see what I'm showing or presenting. And that makes me guided, because if I have to make last minute adjustments on the size, I take time making those adjustments. Pero again, depende yan sa room. Pero kung sa online, ganun din. No? Titignan din natin how well it is that the students are able to read what it is that we're sharing online.
Siguro, sir, sa online they'll have to consider the devices being used by the students. Saan nanonood mostly ang mga
Yeah,
students, like, is it tablets, cellphones, or laptops ba? That would
yes.
actually allow you to see yung adaptiveness nung ano 'no, font sizes niyo po, 'no. Okay.
Exactly, that's
This
right.
one, yes. Sir Jake, this one is from teacher John Paul, Halyasgo. Sir Jake, is it okay to make presentation parallel also to your discussion, good for guardians to serve as a guide for them?
Okay.
I think he's referring to handouts, sir. Is it okay to to give handouts to parents?
Yes, sure, sure, of course. Oo. Siguro gawin pa natin, Franco, something that can be more parent or guardian friendly. Yes, we can also do that for them. Sure, absolutely.
Yan, okay. Siyempre parang to help din, no? This one, siguro last two questions, Sir Jake, no? This one is
Sure.
from teacher Lord Lena. What makes you a great speaker even though you are loaded with different workloads? Although nabigay na pala to kanina, no, ni Sir Jake, no? Again, courage, context, and that compassion, no?
Right.
Pwede sabihin, no? Three C's in a way, Sir Jake, no? Nakabuo na
Yes.
naman tayo na three
Sis,
C's
ang
lang po
dami.
yun, no? Context, courage, and compassion. Ang ano po natin. Sir Jake, this one. I think we have also a question from teacher Kyla Cadiano. as we are right now, I see that you're an effective and efficient. Does that come from experience? Like, for example, you're a good teacher before. So, gaano kalaki siguro, ang tanong ni Teacher Kyla, no, gaano kalaki yung importance ng experience in designing effective presentation and also being a good presenter?
Yes, thank you, Sir Franco and Kyla, for that question. No? Alam nyo, bata pa lang ako. And this is, I think, maybe some of you can also relate to it. No? Pag nagre-review ako for a test, Sir Franco and Kyla and all the teachers, no? Alam niyo yung ginagawa ko? I set up our dining room na parang classroom. Ina-arrange ko in rows yung mga upuan sa klase. Tapos, nagpabili pa ako ng whiteboard noon para kunyari, teacher ako. And the way I reviewed was done in a way that, I would pretend to be a teacher. So, I was reviewing the lessons by teaching them to an invisible group of students. So bata pa lang, parang yun na talaga yung passion ko, yung hilig ko. But you're right, no? Kahit gaano katindi yung passion mo, you will find roadblocks, you will find challenges along the way as a teacher, especially if you're young in the profession, if you're new in the profession. And you know what? What I really found very valuable, Franco, was really to listen very carefully to my co-teachers, no? Ang dami kong small tips and pieces of advice and techniques that I've learned from teachers who were working with me at the time. I remember a teacher, no? First day ng klase, instead of going through the normal routines, no, he came to class dressed like a flight attendant. Alam niyo, pag flight attendant, pag nasa eroplano, no, ginaguide niya yung mga pasahero, ilagay yung gamit, umupo, kung ano yung safety rules, and he was behaving like that. He was speaking like that. May script pa siya to engage students that way. And I saw how, engaged and different the students were in terms of being so excited about what the teacher prepared for them, no. And so I learned, and even when I went on teaching in college and conducting training sessions, and daming small bits and pieces of strategies and techniques, no, na pinagsama-sama ko, na nagagamit ko rin sa classroom and in training programs. So that's what I'd like to invite everyone to do as well. Let's learn from each other. Let's and that's how we best learn, when we share our tips. But at the same time, dear teachers, dapat matinik din tayo sa pag-pick up ng mga discarding ganyan, no? Na pwede nating dalin din sa sarili nating classrooms. So you have to be able to open your eye to details also and see na wow, no? There are good teachers I had before. There are good teachers that I worked with before. But at the same time, gusto ko rin na ako rin yung titignan ng mas batang mga teachers o ibang mga teachers na kasama ko na makakapulot din ng something from my own style. So yes, that's it, Sir Franco and Kyla. There are good teachers that I looked up to and worked with, but at the same time, naging goal ko rin na maging teacher na sana makatulong din ako sa mga bata, sa mga bagong teachers.
Yes, maraming salamat. Sabi nga ni Teacher Jan, no, Sir Jake, may 4Cs na po kasi may collaboration din. So, for us to be able to become a better speaker and better designer of presentation, let's also collaborate. Siguro, Sir Jake, no, yung tanong din dito ni Teacher Kyla, something to do with, if I'm a new teacher, am I expected to be an excellent speaker right away? Well, if you are, then nice. Pero kung hindi po, walang masama, no? So, again, sabi nga ni Sir Jake kanina, we will stumble on
Yeah.
roadblocks, challenges, no, we will fail sometimes, but again, learning from those, no, it's actually going to help us become a better presenter, no, and speaker. Pero Sir Jake, last question. May isang question from the chat kanina, no. This is actually from teacher Joseph Hermitanio, no. And ang question niya is something about the use of memes and the use of like mga hugot lines in presentation. I think we get to see that more often in classes used by teachers, by speakers, no, in webinars. I have seen that very often. are those materials okay to be used in presentations?
Right. Yes, Franco, thank you for that question. But let's be careful, no? Okay yan, okay po gumamit ng hugot lines and memes, and sometimes even videos that we get online. But dear teachers, please be mindful because we are also very particular about the sensibilities, right? About religious, political, social orientations and backgrounds, sensitive topics that might also border on, certain things that people might feel disrespectful or offensive to them. Minsan kasi pag nakikita natin being used by showbiz personalities or political individuals, right? We think that it's always okay, no, to use them even in our classes. But we of all people as teachers should know better kung anong content, anong jokes, anong hugot lines ang appropriate to be used in class. We're not saying that we want to filter everything because sometimes it loses the flavor also, no? Yung nature ng joke nawawala. But we're living in a world where we want to be very mindful also of being inclusive and being very sensitive to the examples, to the references that we're making or saying in class. Okay? So, okay lang yan, but make sure that walang pong nasasagasaan, wala pong nababangga, wala pong na-offend sa mga ginagamit na jokes, hugot lines, or memes. Kasi nga, iba-iba na po ang pinagdadaanan ng mga bata. And remember also teachers, marami pong mga bata who are encountering mental health issues. And sometimes these jokes, these hugot lines can be triggers. No? So, might as well be very careful, very very mindful of what it is that we're using. No, thank you, Ses, for saying. No, I think si Ses from the audience is saying that there are a lot of research papers discussing the use of memes. So teachers, let's go ahead and see what the findings of those studies are.
Yan,
Okay.
agree on that, no, Sir Jake. Now, ako personally, I also use them. Pero again, with so much sensibility, no,
Right.
with the context of my students, napaka-importante po niya. Okay? Anyway, teachers, maraming salamat, Sir Jake, no, and there are still some questions in the chat, pero unfortunately, teachers, no, that's the only time what we have for today. Rest assured, no, we'll be addressing those concerns in different sessions, okay, or other sessions that we're going to have in this January series, no? And siguro before po tayo mag-end, no, of course, let's show our appreciation to Sir Jake who have enthusiastically, I can't emphasize the word more than enough na yung word na enthusiastic kasi grabe yung level of energy kanina ni Sir Jake. Na I think that's one of the things na na-mention na notice na mga teachers natin, no? Yung level of engagement tsaka yung level of enthusiasm and energy ni Sir Jake. No? And with that, we'd like to present this certificate of appreciation, no, to Sir Jake. No? So this certification is respectfully awarded to Jake Aragon for sharing his knowledge and expertise in the recently concluded webinar entitled Effective Presentation for Teachers, awarded on January 20, 2022, to be signed by your administrators, Joseph Angelo M. Santos, Paula May J. Mendoza, Angelo B. Malyari, and Franco Nicolo P. Adun with a training duration of 2 hours. Maraming salamat, Sir Jake, no? Of course, on behalf of the community. And of course, Sir Jake, before siguro kami magpaalam sa'yo, no, I'd like to first ask a short message maybe for our teachers who are once again, no, medyo nagkaroon ulit ng setback. Pabalik na tayo sa face-to-face, pero setback ulit, bumalik ulit sa online. And of course, we continue to battle the shifts in education. So, Sir Jake?
Yes, dear teachers, teach on, no? Continue lang po tayo sa pagtuturo, sa paghubog ng mga bata, no? Sila po, marami pong worries, marami pong agam-aga, marami pong concerns about their future. They're hearing so many things from sources that are not reliable. And you teachers are the ones who will show the light at the end of the tunnel and continue loving the profession, continue growing in it. Kayo po ang magsisilbing tunay na gabay at kaagapay ng mga bata sa panahon na ito. So maraming salamat po, and I hope we can continue engaging and supporting each other. Maging kaagapay po natin ang isa't isa sa kahit anumang pagsubok, kahit anumang kinaharap natin bilang mga guro. So thank you, and just teach on, dear teachers.
Maraming salamat po, ano, Sir Jake. Sir Jake, we will get in touch with you because I think madami nag-request ng presentation mo. So teachers, will try to contact, I will try to communicate with Sir Jake, no, regarding the presentation, and we'll let you know, and we'll post, no, anything, any update via our Facebook page, no, at Kaagapay Teacher Support. Maraming salamat, teachers. Let's show our appreciation and of course our greetings, Sir Jake, in the chat, no. Babasahin niyo po yan mamaya at makikita niya po, no, yang mga message. I hope, Sir Jake, na naramdaman mo yung init, warmth ng community, no, sa an appreciation ng community po sa
Ako,
time
ramdam
na
na
binigay
ramdam
niyo sa amin.
ko. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Sir Jake. Paalam po. Okay, so teachers, maraming salamat, and thank you for joining, no, our session yet again. Our session for today, no. Nakita naman natin, no, grabe yung siksik, liglig at umaapaw na session natin for today, no. Kahit marami na tayong medyo alam doon, ang dami pa ring bagong binigay ni Sir Jake, no. Plus, I think there are some important things that was mentioned, no, and emphasized by Sir Jake in creating a more effective presentation. Okay, so teachers, okay, before po tayo magkaroon ng evaluation, I'd like to first invite everyone for our event on Saturday, this Saturday at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. No, I'll be your speaker, teachers. Okay, ang hirap, bigla akong kinabahan kasi coming from Sir Jake's presentation, tapos punta sa presentation ko. So teachers, wish me luck, no, that I do at least meron na akong ano, no, may basis na ako on how to prepare my presentation on Saturday, no. But again, nakakaba pa din because coming from such a great session for today, I hope that I can sustain that level of energy on Saturday. So tomorrow, on Saturday, pag-uusapan naman natin on promoting integrity and honesty in assessments, no. How can we actually, because that has always been a question of teachers, how can we prevent cheating? Okay? Ayan, maraming salamat sa encouragement ng Teacher Abigail, Teacher Jaira. Ayan, nakakaano po, Teacher John, okay? Nakakabuhay po ng loob yan. Pero definitely, walang tulugan tonight until tomorrow kasi medyo mataas yung standard na naset ng speaker natin for today. Maraming salamat, teachers, sa mahal na mahal niyo talaga ako, teachers. Talagang grabe yung pag-encourage. Okay, thank you po, teachers. I hope to see you on Saturday, 2 to 4 p.m. on our next session for the January series. Okay? So teachers, here we are now at our evaluation. Please make sure that you have okay, sorry for tama, okay, that you fill out, no, this form properly at https://tinyurl.com/January series P4. Okay, please do let me know if it works, and we'll do something about it kung hindi po nag-work, no. Doon po sa, by the way, teachers, no, doon po sa mga hindi nakatanggap ng certificates from the first webinar, no, of January series, I noticed, chinek ko po kanina, meron palang mga hindi talaga napadalhan. So I just sent it right now. Kakapadala ko lang po nung nung mga certificates for the part 1. Working po. Maraming salamat kay Teacher Carol. Okay? Yan. Marami na nag-confirm na it's working. Okay? So teachers, maraming salamat again. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll see you on Saturday for our part 5 of the January series. Huwag po natin kakalimutan. We'll see you tomorrow on Saturday, teachers. Okay? Stay safe. Ingat po tayong lahat. If we can, still stay at home para po mas mapangalagaan natin yung ating mga sarili at ang ating mga pamilya. Paalam po.